They said it was just one person. But history has proven that one person is never just one person. Think about it. Revolutions didn't begin with armies, they began with whispers. Entire kingdoms have crumbled not because of invading forces, but because one solitary soul refused to bend. A single match can burn down a palace, and one seed can split a mountain if given enough time. Yet still they looked at you and scoffed, it's only one person. That's the greatest miscalculation of power, believing that numbers define strength. They forgot that truth doesn't need majority votes, conviction doesn't need a crowd, and spirit doesn't need a cheerleading squad to validate its force. When you rose, you didn't come alone. You rose with every injustice you survived, every ancestor who whispered through your DNA, every silent warrior who never had a chance to speak. Suddenly, just one person sounded like thunder. And here's the hilarious part. The same people who dismissed you as irrelevant are now acting like they're facing a whole army. They count shadows where there are none. They hear echoes in empty rooms. Why? Because you stopped being an individual in their eyes. You became a legion, a movement, a storm. They don't even know who they're fighting anymore. You or the thousands who now stand behind your truth. So buckle up, because today we're going to break down how their greatest underestimation turned into your greatest revelation, that one aligned soul is never one. It's already an army. Number one, they forgot that a soul in alignment is multiplication, not addition. They counted you as just one, but they didn't understand that when a person is in full alignment with their purpose, their presence multiplies. Alignment isn't about doing everything perfectly, it's about being so rooted in truth that everything you touch begins to amplify. That's the difference between someone living at random and someone living with divine precision. When you aligned, your voice stopped being just words and became a frequency. And frequencies don't travel alone, they spread, they resonate, they ripple through spaces long after the sound is gone. That's why they underestimated you. They thought numbers were the proof of strength. They thought only movements backed by a crowd could matter. But one aligned person is not a single voice, it's an orchestra. It's the echo of 1,000 lifetimes. It's the universe putting its full weight behind a single vessel and saying, here, speak through them. When that happens, the one becomes multiplied into infinity. You stop being just you. You became a force carrying every silent battle you've survived, every hidden victory that nobody saw, every prayer whispered over you. That's why your presence now carries weight even in silence. Think about why their plans failed over and over again. They aimed at a body, but what they didn't realize was that they were up against an energy that doesn't shrink when attacked. It expands. They struck at you expecting subtraction, but they triggered multiplication. Alignment made your suffering meaningful, and meaning is what gives survival the power to echo. You didn't just stand back up, you stood up carrying a whole legion of truths within you. This is why people can't explain why you feel larger than life even when you walk into a room alone. It's not ego, it's not arrogance, it's alignment. When you're aligned, you are no longer a single entity, you are a broadcast, a living amplification of something far bigger than yourself. And that's why the words, just one person, don't fit you anymore. They missed it completely. You became the embodiment of what happens when one soul aligns fully with divine will. You turned one life into a multiplying force, and that's why you rose up as an entire legion. Number two, their metrics of power were flawed from the beginning. They measured strength the way the world has always been taught to measure it, by numbers, by followers, by influence, by who can gather the largest crowd. They thought if they had judges in their pockets, if they had institutions backing them, if they had the majority on their side, then victory was guaranteed. But their entire metric of power was flawed from the beginning, because true power is not in how many stand behind you, but in what stands within you. Conviction is the one thing they never accounted for. Conviction doesn't need applause, it doesn't need a stage, and it doesn't need reinforcement. When conviction is real, it becomes a current that cannot be shut off. It carries a person even when every door slams in their face. It lifts them when resources are stripped away. It keeps them moving forward when everything outside of them says stop. That's why when they counted you as just one person, they missed the very thing that makes one person unstoppable, an unshakable, undeniable inner force. Their mistake was thinking movements are built from the outside in. In reality, they are built from the inside out. They wanted to drown you in opposition, but conviction is buoyant. It rises regardless of pressure. Conviction makes one voice stronger than a million hollow echoes. It makes resistance crumble because resistance cannot survive truth that refuses to fold. When you carry conviction, you carry something that spreads without you even trying. It seeps into words, actions, energy, and presence. That's what they didn't see coming. They thought you would shrink because you didn't have their kind of backing. But you stood tall because your backing came from something incorruptible. While they relied on manipulation, bribery, and control, you relied on truth. And truth, carried with conviction, is not fragile. It doesn't crack under scrutiny. It doesn't weaken under attack. If anything, every attempt to disprove it only sharpens its edges. That is why their metrics of power collapsed. They were counting allies, resources, and institutions, while you were holding something weightless yet immovable. They were busy measuring the size of their army, while you were walking in the certainty of your cause. In the end, one person with conviction outweighed all their numbers combined. And that's why you rose as more than just one. You rose as an undeniable force they could never match.